Hey guys, this is Joe Simpson. I'm sitting here this afternoon and I'm playing around with Davinci Resolve. I'm a Final Cut guy. I've been editing videos on YouTube for a while, a couple hundred anyway, and I've gotten pretty decent chops at the whole Final Cut Pro process. And I've got some boilerplate stuff set up. I've got different things that I know how to do. I pretty much know my way around all the different panes. And basically when I edit, let's just say start off with some material and let's see, like I'll import a video, then I'll import an audio clip. You know, I can very quickly grab those two clips. I can right click, I can hit synchronize the clips. It'll put the synchronized clip down below. Then I can go down below and grab the synchronized clip. I can go up here and I can say I and cruise over here and say O. And I can do a whole host of things at this point. I can hit E, W, or different letters, which will make it do different things. But if I hit E, it puts it right at the end of the timeline. Then from there, I can sit on top of that clip and I can go over here and I can very quickly do some light color grading and things like that. So I'm really happy with Final Cut and the speed in which I can achieve while editing videos currently, but I'm growing a little bit weary and a little bit fearful of the future of Apple for me. Not so much Apple as a company. I do think they are not making the progress that they used to be making in terms of their innovation, but their pricing is just ridiculous. And so I'm sitting here on this computer that I bought off of Craigslist. It's a 32-inch iMac. It's high and to the right for 2013, but it's 2019. So I'm basically running out of, my resource limits as far as my RAM, my CPU speeds, and my resolution of my monitor. Some things are just getting a little bit older. Now, I could make it a good long time, probably another year or two with this machine, no problem, because most of my output is either just generic 4K or 1080p output. So it's not that big of a deal. I'm looking for an editor that's not going to depend on a certain operating system for a computer. I don't want to be stuck in Windows. I don't want to be stuck in iOS. So that brings me to only a couple different softwares out there. One of the softwares that's a choice that I could make is the Adobe Premiere, and that's very popular and it's still professionally used and widely accepted, but I just don't like, the way the Adobe interface and how that stuff feels, and then I don't like especially monthly subscription based payment process. I just want to pay for it, have it, and that's it. So then that brings me to a couple other ones. I could look at Sony Vegas. I could look at a couple of other different computer systems, but those are all PC based. And then here comes Davinci Resolve, which is probably way more than I need from an editing standpoint, but it's probably something that's going to give me something I can grow into. I think Final Cut Pro is very pro. I don't have a problem with the system. I'm just afraid of what happens the day when my Mac breaks and I want to be able to keep editing. I'm going to be stuck. I want to learn Davinci Resolve, basically. So I can say, hey, if I have to make the break from Apple, I can make the break and go to a PC and be just fine. So that's the bottom line. So let's not dilly-dally around too much. I'm not going to mess with Final Cut. I am going to draw some correlations between similarities and differences between the two, but I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about Final Cut. This is all Davinci Resolve. So what my goal is for these videos is I want to walk through each and every one of these panes. Now, my first video today might be several minutes of me just getting oriented with Davinci because literally it's the first time in. I want to get into Davinci and kind of really get to know it. I want to push every single button. So I recently bought Davinci 16, Davinci Resolve 16 for $299. Gives me a lifetime of upgrades. And it gives me two machines. So right away when you open Davinci Resolve, you're opened with this new project folder. You have an untitled project, you can do a new project. If you do a new project, you name it. Let's call it JDS 1. Okay, I can't think of a good name, so that's that. So I'm going to create this project called JDS 1, and it immediately jumps me to the edit page, which I kind of find weird because I would think I'd want to jump immediately to the media page to start bringing in media for this particular JDS 1 project. So I'm going to go over here to media and let's talk about that for a second. First of all, you have your project settings and things. I don't even know how, I don't know my way around this software at all. But let's just go lightly into this and let's talk about media. The first thing that's different about Davinci Resolve than Final Cut is the way that it handles media altogether. Final Cut, when you import something, it imports actually into the software, into its own little folder. Now you can make these locations different with Final Cut, so you can put it to an external hard drive so it doesn't eat up your space. But the way Davinci works, I think they want you to take all of your media off of your cards and put it into folders before you even import the media to this program, because if you don't, it's going to, if you try to import, like for example, like if I come over here and I open up, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to know a different way to do this, but let's say this clip right here, see it has a nice little scroll over, it's perfect. Let's say I bring that clip over here and I drop it in the media pool. Well, first of all, it's different than my project. It's 4K 2997, so I'm going to say change it, make my project match this particular file. So I have this file here, and I would think, like in Final Cut, when you drag from here, which is coming from the card, and you drag it over into this bin, I would think the bin would put it into a folder. Now, is there a way to tell Davinci when I drag something over, automatically put it in a certain folder, or does it just stay on the card? Because if you go here and you say reveal in Finder, it's just sitting there on the card. See the 100 PANA up here? It's just sitting on the card. So nothing happened. And I noticed that because I started editing and it was getting real choppy, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? And it was because the card can't keep up with the resources that Davinci requires. So I'm going to take that out of the media pool and I'm going to show you what I do. I put it over in a different location. I have a Thunder Bay hard drive, which is a Thunderbolt connected hard drive. It's Thunderbolt 2, so it's nothing special. It's like a USB 3 speed. And that's normal. I think people with normal computers and normal attachments should be able to see this stuff and how it works. And then I made Davinci Media, Davinci Exports, and Resolve project backups. And that's where I back up my projects. But let's say I go over here to Davinci Media and I break it down into audio, photos, and video. So what I do before I even start getting into Davinci is I come over here and I'll take my Lumix card and I'll drill down, which is kind of hard to do because it doesn't give me a real good window to preview this stuff in. I probably am doing it all wrong, but let's say I want this clip, this picture, and this clip all to go over to the RAID SSD. Then I would come over here to, oh, it's not RAID SSD, it's Thunder Bay. I'd come over here to my Thunder Bay and I would say, okay, I've got a little folder that I made called Davinci, and I've got Davinci Media in here, and I have videos. So I'm going to take my videos that I'm going to use on this project and drop it in there. So that's all fine and dandy, but it takes a little bit of time to get it in there. And the other thing that's a problem is, like, you have to stay organized up front, whereas Final Cut seems to be organizing stuff off of like metadata, and it seems to kind of organize for you. So I'm going to let that stuff load in, and then we'll continue once that's done loading. Now I have all the videos in the folder where I have the videos for Davinci. So let's pretend I opened up Davinci and I'd already done that transport. Now over here in my media selection process, I have these different clips that I can go for. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these clips. Nothing really means anything. It's not like a video that I'm trying to do. So I'm going to go Command. You can't, I don't think you can grab like multiple. Oh yeah, you can. Okay. I was going to say, give me a break. That's like basic. Okay, so I got 5 out of the 6 clips here, and I'm going to drop them in there, and they're in my media pool now for Davinci, but really they're just still sitting on the Thunder Bay drive in that same folder. So if I reveal in Finder, you can see that it's in video, which actually is in the Thunder Bay folder. So that's something to note when you're importing with Davinci. You want to make sure that your assets are already on whatever drive you're going to be working with them from, unless there's something, I don't know, if somebody could chime in and say, hey, when you're importing off a card, you can tell it to go here, or tell it to go there. I'm not going to get into this screen too much yet. I want to get right over to the cut page, because that's kind of what I do in Final Cut. So I'm trying to work through this as best I can. So once I get over to the cut page, there's 4 little boxes up here. There's your media pool, your transitions, so you can do some transitioning in here, some titling, and then some effects. blurs and different things like that. So you can do quite a bit of editing in here. Now, one thing, there's a few things missing in here and I haven't been able to figure it out. So you can go film strip mode with your view. So you can see each one of these, right? And if you notice when you scroll over, nothing comes up over here in this window. So you have to, I think you double click it, yeah. And then you can scroll over and it shows you in that window. And that's more like Final Cut. See, Final Cut wouldn't matter where you were, what you're doing, it would show up in that window. Not that it's good or bad or better or whatever, it's just, that's just how it works. Now, also over here, similar to Final Cut, you can go into film strip mode, which is nice because it gives you a little slower, movement through your video. It gives you a little finer touch there. And then ultimately over here, it shows you the audio waveform and it shows you where you're at in that video. That little red cursor there shows you where you're located. So you can go over here and that's where you mark your in and out points. Now in Final Cut, you can scroll over here. So you could theoretically sit over here in the media pool and you could say, I'm going to start it right here and mark in. And if you noticed down here, it marked the in point. If I scroll up here on this piece of film strip and I say right as I pull up from that shadow, right here, I want to go out, it'll mark an in and an out for this clip. And you can see this little white boxes around the marked in and out point. So from here, you have two ways of getting this down into the timeline. Now, I haven't figured out the shortcut keys or if there's a way to assign shortcut keys in this part. But like normally in Final Cut, you could just hit E at this point and it would just jump down into the timeline and append. Here, I can't get any of the shortcuts to work the way I want them to. So my choices are to drag and drop this thing. Can I do that? To drag and drop. Yeah, so I can't even drag and drop this white box. Like it won't let me do that. So I have to come over here and hit a button, which I think is kind of a pain to have to go all the way over here and go click, and then it drops it down into the timeline. Now, one of the first things that I noticed about this timeline that's annoying to me, and guys, I'm referencing Final Cut, so I'm not trying to say this is good or bad. I'm just saying this is like a frustration that I'm facing in the transition, because I am going to transition. So I'm determined. It's just kind of weird. So up here, if you grab this cursor and you click and hold and you move to the right, it progresses in the direction in which you're moving through the video, farther down, like farther into the timeline. But over here, when you take two fingers on your trackpad, if I'm pushing to the right, it's moving farther in the timeline. If I'm pushing to the left, it moves the other way. Whereas with Final Cut, it's different, I think. Let me check that. Yeah, see, in Final Cut, you're moving the whole platform in which you're working. Like this, think of this timeline down here as like a tabletop, and this is a roll of tape rolled out onto the tabletop. It moves everything at one time. Now, if you grab the cursor, you can move that back and forth, but nothing else moves. And then you can scroll, like I'm pushing to the right, and when I push to the right, it's like it's sliding the tabletop to the right. You follow what I'm saying? And when I push to the left, it's like it's sliding the tabletop to the left. Now, if I want to see everything, I just hit Shift Z and it all jumps into focus. And again, if I push to the right, it's like you're sliding. It's almost like you're pushing to the right, whatever it is underneath your cursor, which feels natural to this point because that's what I've learned. Whereas when you come over here and you push to the right, it goes the opposite direction. So it feels really odd coming from Final Cut. But when you grab this and you push left and right, it reacts correctly. So it's really strange coming from, like when I push to the right, I want these numbers to move to the right, but they move opposite direction of what I'm used to. So that's something to get used to, for sure. The other thing is, I can't get any of these shortcuts to work. So this is like a dual timeline. This timeline is set up to where you've got like the micro timeline up top, which is just as functional almost as the one down below. The one down below shows you waveforms if you want to see it. It shows you all kinds of different stuff. So let's take a look at some of the things. Let's just drop in some footage. Let's first of all go to this one right here. So this one in particular, I cut my face off. So I only had the part where I didn't cut my face off that I wanted from this clip. So I would say, I don't want any of this. and I want to go in right here, and we're going to go to the end, and we're going to go out. And see, again, I can't drag this selection down and drop it in. I have to click a button, or I have to learn a shortcut key, which I can't get it to work. So I don't know if it's beta or if it's just not set up to do that here. So let's hit the drop down key. So you notice, like, you see this video now. You see it up in the window, and you can see where it transitions to the other clip. Let's see, it transitions right over here. Yeah, right there, you can see the transition point. But up here in the timeline, this cursor is showing a much different scenario. You can see the cut point is right there. So let's go to the one that I wanted to keep. All right. And so let's drift over this one here instead of the other one. So let's go here, and I think I start talking right this. So I go in, and let's say I finish out. When do I get up? Okay. Okay, so right there I go out, and let's put that one in front of the other clip, because I started with the intro and then I showed the boat. So in this case, I'm going to wedge it in. All right. So if you've noticed up here, I've got a clip here. I've got a clip in the middle, and I've got a clip in the beginning. The clip in the beginning is just a meaningless window shot that I just threw in there. This one's the intro shot of me talking. And of course, this one is the let me show you the boat clip. And now you can see the whole entire timeline from left to right, whereas down here, you can't. You got to scroll through the whole thing. But what's cool is you can get close to a point. You see how I'm close to this break point up here? It put me close to the point down here. So now I can fine tune my movement and say, okay, where do I want to be exactly? Okay, so right there, I don't want to be drawing back. So let's stop right there, let's just say. So right here, I would want to do a Command B in Final Cut, but for whatever reason, it doesn't do anything. And even Blade doesn't do anything. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm not supposed to be able to do that, but I can shorten this clip. So I can do it. It's just not the way I want to do it necessarily. So let's say right here, I wanted to add a transition between these 2 points. If you look up here, you see this cursor? You see how I'm not really sitting on the transition point? The cool thing about this is I can just grab a dissolve and click it, and whatever the cursor is closest to is going to get that dissolve applied. So you can see down here, here I go right and left again. You see down here, I've got this dissolve set up. Now this does render. I've noticed that Davinci takes a few seconds for these dissolves to catch up and start rendering. It's not quite as snappy as Final Cut, at least not on my machine. So let me click that. Yeah, see that? It's not smooth yet. So I don't know how long that's supposed to take. Now, if we jump over to Edit and we look at that resolve, sometimes there's like little bars above things, and they show the rendering happening. But let's stay on this page for now. Okay, so there's a dissolve. It doesn't look good, but I'm just going to do it just for giggles. Now you can stretch this resolve, you can shorten the resolve or the transition, and that will give it, you know, differing looks depending on what you're going for. The other thing that's weird is if I click over here, like the cursor doesn't jump to where I'm clicking. I have to double click, and then it'll jump to where I want it to be, but it jumps to where the cursor is. So the cursor always stays in the middle on the bottom. Follow that? Isn't that weird? It's always in the middle. Like you can't grab it and move it. You can only move what's underneath it. So like if you want to jump to this transition, let's say like right here, and I come over here and I double click, that transition jumps over to the cursor. It's kind of weird, kind of hard to get used to. I wish it would just go where I want it to go. But see, the point is, this cursor down below is not supposed to move up and down the timeline. The timeline's supposed to move underneath it. This cursor is the one you want to do that with. So this one goes wherever you want it. Wherever you click, it goes to up top. So that's kind of cool. It takes some getting used to. So let's say I want to do a transition here. You'll notice this cursor right here is closest to this joint and farther from this one. So if I were to just go up here and hit transition, it's going to just jump over onto that point. So if I put this over here, you can see now I have the transition. And then let's say I want one more transition to over here. you know, I'm still sweeping my hand. I need to get used to using this thing because I can just say, all right, let's go over to here. Oh, there's only 2 transitions. So let's say we wanted to stretch this one back out. And let's say over here, we wanted to transition here. Let's see what happens if I hit transition. Yeah, it throws it on the end. So it's a fade out. So that's cool. And it fades audio and video at the same time. The other thing I wanted to try, what was I going to try? What is this? This is a cut. So this should be, like it says cut. I would think that's like a blade, but it's cutting. Like when I put a transition, you notice it pops up here. When I hit cut, it takes the transition away. It looks like that is more of a representation of a cut. Now, if that was a cut, like on the video below, that would be cool because then I could just cut it. Like I could fine tune down here where I want it and cut it. But I don't want to do all this movement with my mouse. I want some shortcut keys. So can somebody please give me some light at the end of the tunnel or guide me to a video that says, hey, here's your shortcut keys. But let's put that transition back on there. So that's really as far as I've gotten on this page. So I don't really know how to do a lot of stuff here and I need some serious help. So if anybody has any advice, I know what I was going to try. Let's try a Command T. Yeah, Command T doesn't do anything. Usually when you Command T over top of something, let's remove that transition. Let's put the cursor back on it. Let's Command T. Yeah, it does nothing. You can just hit a transition button. See, I'd really love some shortcut keys here, and I just don't have them available at all. So I don't know what the heck is going on if I just don't have something turned on or if I don't know what I'm doing. But maybe this is how this is set up, just to be a basic cut page. But if that's the case, it doesn't have near what I would want to do like a full like little YouTube video edit and move on. There's some different things you have in here. You have, first of all, you've got the clip, the actual clip in the media pool over here. Then you've got tape mode. And then you've got, I don't even know what the heck mode that is. Okay, let's go clip. Then you got tape. I think tape is like all the videos. Yeah, it's all the videos. So that's that neat thing that they promote. Basically, when you hit this mode here in the middle, every single clip over here to the left, all of these are strung out in the order they're in on this timeline right here. And they're shown with breaks. Like you can see a little white line here, little white line there. I'd like to see these lines a little bit thicker and darker because it looks like the waveform it looks like the waveform peaking. But like there's one video right here. There's a video that starts here. There's a video that starts, I don't even know where, like there. There's one here. So you could string out, like you could call this a string out. Some people like to drop all their image and video data on one big timeline and do what's called a string out and then kind of play through it and then chop it up and then just drop it down. You could do that right here. You could sit here and, you know, play this window. Okay, you can go out. You can go put that on the end. You can come over here, play this part right here. So I want to play me getting in the boat. So you come over here and you say in. Okay. I don't know why it's playing choppy all of a sudden. Okay, sitting down. Okay, out. I want to hit E. Every time I do that, I want to hit E. And that's another piece. And let's say I have this, you know, whatever it is. Let's say I want this camera shot right here, this little camera pan. Let's say in. So it's kind of convenient that way. It's not super elegant. See, I hit E again. I just want to hit E. So, all right. So now if you see below, what I just did was I added a bunch more clips. You see there's a clip there, the window, there's a clip there I added, and a clip there I added. And right here shown in the timeline. So as this timeline gets bigger and bigger and bigger, these video segments compress smaller and smaller and smaller until you have everything fit. And then you just click around on that timeline up here, and then down here you fine tune your movements. But I'm not super happy with like the append, insert, and blade. If I could get those shortcuts figured out, please somebody give me a tip. The one other thing I want to cover today before we move on is right here, this tab right here. If you click it, you've got, this is basically a tool so you can kind of resize your video frame. And then this is crop. So this is, this crop mode here, you could just crop it and, definitely takes some getting used to. Wow, this is weird. Not a good thing, not a bad thing, just a thing. So get rid of that clip. So that's the crop tool here. So we can, I think, how do you reset parameters? There's one I need. How about this? Reset. There you go. There's a little reset button over here. You got audio. You can turn volume up and down. I don't see any other control there. That's helpful at this point, at least. You've got speed controls, and I've not done a lot of these, and some people have told me that these speed ramping icons over here are not very helpful, at least not yet. This is camera stabilizer. You can tell it how much to stabilize, what to do. This is basically Ken Burns. So as this video plays, it will zoom from the red box on the out to the green box to the inside. Or it starts on green and moves out to the red, whichever is first and last. I don't know. I haven't really figured it out yet. And then this last one is, I don't know what that is. Anybody know what that is? I have no clue what that is. I don't know what this is. If anybody knows what that is, please tell me. Now up here on the right, you've got a couple things. You can pick your project settings. You can go to custom project settings and you can change them for this, which is pretty helpful, and it's pretty local and easy to get to. You've got color science. You can pick your, different color formats that you want to use for the project. And then this is a bypass color grades and fusion effects. So look, if you did color grades, this bypass and then turns it on off, so you can compare before and after. So this is a really scrambled entrance to this first page called Cut, which is the new hot page that everybody loves with Davinci. And I'm hoping I get better at it, because right now I pretty much suck at this and I want to get better, but I wish, what I want is you guys to chime in and help me out, because I think the first and foremost thing I want to do about the cut page is figure out if there's any shortcut keys. If there's no shortcut keys, that really kind of sucks rocks, because that kind of makes that quick down and dirty cutting and editing preliminary, string out easy. That's something I'm really snappy with in Final Cut. So if anybody knows something easy or the magic bullet to figure out how to set up your shortcut keys for Davinci Resolve in the cut page, that's my biggest learning curve thing right now. Other than that, it's just getting used to the way this timeline feels. So I hope that wasn't ridiculously stupid and annoying, but I'm just trying to walk through this, and hopefully some of you guys have never looked at Davinci before will look at it with me. Some of these things over here, as you're cutting, just a quick reminder, you can change your dissolve types over here. These are transitions, dissolves, shapes, wipes, irises, and then there's titles. Now, one thing that's weird about the titles right now, they're only putting in the name of the title. So like if I put a title in here, like right there, it says R lower third, and then I go over this title, you see over here to the right, this little title came in and it says title, and that's it. You can't change it. You can't like double click it. You can move it, you can position it, but you can't like change the letters inside of it unless you go over to the edit page. But that's another day. We'll go to the edit page another day. So let's get rid of that title. And the other thing I don't like about the titles is I can't see what they do. So there's just a name of what they do, but there's no example of what they do. I'd love to be able to hover on this and like a window pop up and shows me the action or what it looks like, because there's just nothing. You just kind of have to know what it is. So let's grab this 3D third pane slide, blah, 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 whatever the heck that is, right? And let's get over top of it. Okay, that's what that looks like, but why couldn't I just hover over this or click it and it just show me kind of what it looks like? It just doesn't do that. And I'm sure the beta is going to get worked out and other future versions of this will be better, but it's kind of a trial and error right now. So I don't know that it's super useful yet, unless you know exactly what all these do, and I don't. So, and then there is effects for audio, which is really cool here. Right here, you could do some like de-essing, you could do some limiting, you could do frequency, like multi-band, changes. And right here I have my plugins, noise reduction and room delay. So there's really cool audio features right here on this first cut page, which is cool. Yeah, so a lot of this stuff, I don't even know what it does without putting it into the timeline, reviewing it, and then, going back. But you've got things like sharpen, which is handy. I mean, you could literally, now, I don't know if you can change the sharpening amount. Where do you get to that? Is there like a sharpening tab? Oh, there is. Look at that right here. Open inspector. Oh yeah. So as you add things, they show up down here, and now I can cut that sharpening amount way back, so I wouldn't do that much on like a 4K video. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, learn something there. So as you drop things in, let's leave that open. Let's do a debanding just for the hell of it. As you drop things in, it shows you chroma, global bend, deband, everything you've added. It gives you an inspector tab, and it just floats. So you can open and close the inspector right here for the different effects that you put on your video clips. Very cool. Didn't know that even existed. So now I just learned something. I feel better. I'm making progress. So, okay. So right now I'm pretty comfortable with what everything does in here. I'd have to just play with it, get used to the motion of it. I would like some shortcut keys to actually work. And for the most part, very cool. I don't see any problems with performance and snappiness. And I'm really sorry this was just a big scrambled mess tonight. But maybe what I'll do next time is I'll start on the cut page with like 5 clips. Actually, I just do a YouTube video. And I'll do a YouTube video of me doing a YouTube video. There you go. It's like time travel. And then we'll put it together. It'll be a short 2-3 minute video, and I'll go from the cut to the edit page. And then we'll, oh my God, venture into Fusion, Color, Farlight, and deliver. So hang in there, guys, and try the free Davinci Resolve. It won't do some of the stuff that I'm doing, but it does most of it. I'll see you guys soon. Let me know any information or tips, links to videos, people who are gurus down below. I need any help I can get. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you guys soon.